Open up the Flow Builder in Winter 27, and your first reaction isn't going to be about a feature. It's going to be about that this doesn't look like a Flow Builder anymore. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel SF with AK. This is Aman Kumar, and I'm a 22-time certified Salesforce architect. And this is part 1 of the Winter 27 updates. Winter 27 is a big release for flows. There are far too many changes for one video, so I split them up in multiple videos. And I will split them in a specific way that I want to explain, because it's the reason this part comes first. This video covers everything that changed about the flow builder. The canvas, the panels, the buttons, the shortcuts. 11 changes in 4 different groups. 2 about the screen space, 4 about building faster, 4 about handing a flow over to somebody else, and 1 right at the end that isn't cosmetic at all. It's a security change, and it's the one I'll actually go and read properly. Everything else, the new elements, the screen flow updates, test mode, comes later. Because if I did it the other way, you would spend those videos looking at a canvas I hadn't explained yet. Everything I'm showing you is from a Winter 27 pre-release org. The official release notes are out now, and the link is in the description if you want to read along. Let's see the important dates first, and then we get into it. This is Salesforce on-key dates, so nothing here is my interpretation. Pre-release org sign-up opened on the 13th of August. And worth knowing, if you signed up for a pre-release org in any earlier releases, you already have access to that. Same credentials, you don't need to sign up again. Now, this one actually needs you to do something. The 27th of August is the sandbox cutoff date, and the sandbox preview starts on the 28th. So if you want a sandbox running Winter 27, so you can test your own customizations, that is your deadline. Bottom half, the trailhead module, the release overview deck, the release badge, and the release readiness live on Salesforce Plus on the 10th of October. And the one everybody cares about, Winter 27 goes live on the 4th of September, the 2nd of October, or the 9th of October, depending on your instance. Don't guess this. Go to Salesforce Trust, search your instance or your my domain, click maintenance, and it will give you the exact date. I'll show you how to do that. So let's open a browser window and let's go to status.salesforce.com. I'll put the link in the description as well. So you can open status.salesforce.com and type in your instance, domain, POID or MID and find your instance. So to find the instance, you will just go to setup and then type in company and company information. Over here, you will find your instance. Just copy this and paste over here and click on search. It found one instance. Let's click on this and let's go to maintenance. And in this, you can see I'm already on the Winter 27 major release on August 12th. Because it was a pre-release org, I'm already on Winter 27. That went live for me on August 12th. Now let's see for other org which is not on Winter 27 yet. This is another dev org that I have. So let's copy the instance. Let's do the same. Go back, type in instance, search, click on the instance, go to maintenance. And as you can see, the release will be available for me on October 11th. For live orgs, these are being released in phases. So check your date when it will be available for you, and only then decide what changes that you need to make before it goes live. Let's move on to the slide. Okay, so 11 things in 4 acts. The screen space, the collapsible sidebar in setup, and the new canvas. Building faster, auto-generated element labels, the preference panel, keyboard shortcuts, and easier decision navigation. Handing it over, and elements saved to metadata. The unused resources filter, better version comparison, and the edit history. And the one on its own, because it doesn't belong with any of them, enforcing user permissions no matter how a flow runs. And that is the logic behind the order. Every one of these is visible in the background, whether I'm talking about it or not. The canvas is in every sort. The preference icon sits in the corner permanently. The unused resource filter lives in the toolbox, which is open half the time. So I would rather tell you about them now than have you sport one in a demo and wonder why I never mentioned that. Well, first feature is sidebar in setup menu. Starting outside the flow builder, because this one is very quick. You can now collapse the sidebar in the setup menu. It's not a headline feature, but think about how much of your day you spend in setup and how often that sidebar is just sitting there while you're trying to read a wide table of permission sets. And the part I like more than the collapsing, sidebar is available across all of the setup now, including Object Manager. If you have ever gone into Object Manager and then wanted to jump somewhere else, you know the drill. Click on home icon, then you are back to the setup, and then you search for the feature and then go there. But no more. Now we'll see how it looks in the org itself. Let me open the org. So here's the sidebar. On the left, like it always was. Now there's a control here to collapse it. So if I click on it, it will collapse. I can expand it again. The width of the table increases. Now let's go to Object Manager, and you see the sidebar is still here. Let's go to Accounts, Field Relationship, any tab that I want to go. But if I want to move outside of Object Manager now, I don't have to click Home. I can just type in the feature. I can just directly go there. So it's just one click. So it saves this click, and it's faster now. And you can collapse it to have more width on the screen to read the description, read the long tables. Well, the same feature appeared in an earlier release as well and got pulled back before it went GA. So enjoy it in your pre-release org, but I would hold off writing it into any internal documentations until it's live in your production. Second feature is the new Flow Builder canvas. Right into the Flow Builder, and the thing you'll notice before anything else. Flow Builder has been given SLDS 2. It has a name, Salesforce Cosmos theme. And this is the biggest visual change to Flow Builder since it launched in 2019. The card on the canvas are tighter, less rounding, less padding, less wasted space, which sounds purely cosmetic until you open a flow with 30 elements in it and realize you can see a lot more of it without zooming out. That is the whole feature. But it's the reason everything in the video looks unfamiliar. So it goes first. Let's see this live in the org. Let's open a flow. Let's open the messy one. As you can see, it's taking much lesser space now. The icons are smaller. Let me show you the older version as well, so you can see the difference in the same tab. Let's go to the other org, type in flow, open the flow. So let me just open it in the side tab. You can clearly see the difference. Icons are smaller. If you have big flow, you can see more of it without zooming out. Okay, let's go back to slides. Feature 3, and this is the one most likely to catch you off guard because it happens without you asking for it. So now Flow Builder writes your element labels for you. You drop an element on the canvas, you configure its properties, and when you close the property pane, the label has filled itself based on what you actually set up in the element. Keep going, change the properties, and the label updates with it. And it's not going to fight you. If you edit a label manually, Flow Builder keeps your version. It stops generating for that element. It's on by default. There's nothing to switch on here. You open the Flow Builder and it's already working. One thing to note, and it's a real one. This needs an Agentforce license. So if you're watching this, go looking for it and nothing happens. That is probably the reason. Let's move on to the next feature. Fourth feature is Customizable Flow Builder experience. So having given you a new canvas, Salesforce also gives you some control over it. There's a new icon at the top right of the Flow Builder that opens a preference pane, and there are three things in there. You can hide the API names, you can collapse labels and descriptions, and you can hide labels and descriptions after setup. So they show while you're configuring the element, then get out of the way once you're done. If you ever build a flow with proper description on every element, which you should be doing, you know the canvas gets messy fast. Every card gets taller. This fixes that without making you delete the description. Now let's see this live in the org. I'm in a flow builder. Let's open the preview. So this is the preference pane. And we have three settings here. As of now, all three are turned off. So let's see what we have on the elements. So if I open any element, I can see the label, API name, description, and everything is here. Now let's go and switch it on one by one. So first, let's hide the API names and click Save. Now close this and let's open it again. And you can see I am only seeing the label, no API names here. Go again hide labels and description after the setup. Let's toggle this on and click save. Now let's close this again and now open this, and you can see the label and description are gone. I can only see the label in a collapsed way. Now let's try the third one. It says collapse label and descriptions. That means by default, the labels and descriptions will be collapsed, but if needed, you can click on edit and it will appear again. So let's click on this, and that will also hide the third setting. Now click save, and you see everything is collapsed now. Even for a new element, it will be similar. You won't see configuration pane or API name or description. Once you click edit, it will appear. The third option was for the elements where you have already done the configuration and then you want to hide the description and label. But the second option, if you turn that on, then the label and description will be turned off for new elements as well. Feature 5, and this one is small until you build flows all day. And at that point, it isn't just small. You can now move around the flow builder with the arrow keys, element to element, and includes across fault paths, decision elements, other branching paths. So branched flow doesn't stop you, and you can cut, copy, and paste elements with your operating system's standard shortcuts like Control+C or Command+C, like that. Previously, you were on tab navigation, which technically worked and practically never got used because tab through a 40 element flow is not navigation, it's a punishment. Now let's see how it works in the org itself. As you can see, my mouse is here and now I'm using arrow keys. This one is marked. Now if I go up, it will select that element, and if I go down, it will select the other element. Now if I use the right arrow, it will take me to the other branch like this. So let me show a more heavy flow. Now this is a very big flow. So now the tab would not work here. But instead, if you use the arrow keys, it will be easier for you to just navigate through the flow. I can move on to the next one, and if I want to change, I can change the branch just like that without moving the mouse. I go back, I can move again, and it works. And it's pretty easy. Similarly, if I want to copy this element, before I used to click on this, click copy element, then click plus again, and then paste it here. Now I use Control+C, and it will be copied. Use the keyboard where you want to paste it. Use Command V or Control V, and it will be pasted there. You don't have to click and select different options. So it's easier, faster to navigate, and faster to use now. So if you are building big flows, it will be pretty helpful. It's a small one, but it's useful. Let's get back to the slides. So the last one in the building faster group, and it's about the decision element. 3 changes, all aimed at the same problem. When you have got a decision with 5 or 6 outcomes, matching what's on the canvas to what is in the property panel is generally annoying. You end up scrolling the panel, trying to work out which outcome is the branch you're looking at. Now you click a path on the canvas and it highlights the matching outcome and its conditions. That is the one that saves you the most time. You can drag the panel edge to make it wider so you can actually see the conditions without them wrapping. And you can rename a path by double-clicking its name on the canvas itself. You don't have to open the decision element at all. Let's see this live in the org. We are in the flow. As you can see, I have 3 outcomes here. Now, if I click on this, it will open the whole decision element for me. I can see the conditions here. If needed, I can expand this panel so that I can see the conditions completely. Also, if I double-click this, I can rename it right here. Let's double-click here and type in 2. And we're good. We have already renamed the label. If I click this one, it will open the second outcome for me. Similarly, if I click on any of this, it will open this decision element for me. And I can see the condition for this path only. That is how it's easier to navigate now. Now, let's get back to slides. Now, we move on to the next group, starting with something you'd never notice until you know about it. Up till now, the end elements on your canvas weren't actually saved anywhere. They weren't in the flows metadata. Flow Builder just drew them on the canvas each time you opened the flow, which had 2 consequences. Your layout could reshuffle itself when you save the flow, and any tool reading the metadata, source control, a deployment tool, an AI agent reading your flow couldn't actually see where your flow ended. Winter 27 saves them automatically whenever you save in an auto layout. No setting, no action. Your canvas stays exactly where you left it, and every end element appears in the XML. if you're doing source control, or if you've got anything reading your flow metadata programmatically, the second one is the bigger deal. Existing flow get their end elements added the next time you save them, so it fixes itself as you work. Now let's see these live in the VS Code, because the flow canvas will not be able to tell the difference between the two, but in the VS Code we will be able to see the difference. These are the end elements that you can see from the flow. The number of elements or the exit points we have in the flow, you will have the same number of end elements here. So as you can see, if I search for ends, we have 16 here. That means we have 8 outcomes in the flow. Similarly, if I go to other flow, it only has one outcome. That means it only ends one way. Now let's see the same in the existing flows. So this is one existing flow that I had in the org. As you can see, there's no end element in here. Now let's say if I go to this one, it has 8 now. Let's open this flow, big flow. So this is the big flow. Let's refresh this. Let's go to the bottom where each element ends. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. There are 8 paths this particular flow ends. That is why we have 8 different end elements in the flow metadata. If I change anything, it will change the number of elements it has in the metadata as well. Let's say if I select this one and connect to this one. That means, so now we have one less end element. Now let's save it. These are warnings, we can ignore these. Now let's go to VS Code. Let's retrieve this flow again. So the count automatically went from 16 to 14 because we merged one end path that reduced one end element in the XML file. Let's go back to the slide. The next feature is unused resource filter in the flow. Feature 8, and it pairs with the last one. There's a new filter that shows you which resource in the flow are no longer being used or are still missing a description. And I want to be precise about the wording here because I have seen this described both ways. It's resources, the thing in your toolbox, variable, formulas, constant, not elements on the canvas, which is exactly right because that's where the junk accumulates. You refactor a flow, you delete some logic, and the variables that logic used just sit there forever. Nobody ever goes back to clean them up because nobody knows which ones are safe to remove. But now you can see them in one click. Now let's see in the org how it appears. This is a flow that I have left messy on purpose, which, let's be honest, is what most inherited flows looks like anyway. Let's open the toolbox and apply the filter. So here are the filters, unused and missing description. Both of the filters sit together so that you can clean in one pass. If I check missing description, I can see all the variables which does not have a description. If I open this one, you will see there's no description here. Similarly, if I check the unused one, I can see all the variables which are not being used in the flow anywhere. So that means we can easily delete these variables and the flow will not be affected by that. Let's get back to the slide. The next feature is better flow version comparison. Flow version comparison already existed. Winter 27 makes the result usable. The element names in the comparison table are clickable now. Click one and a side panel opens with the full detail of what changed, and you can drag that panel. The change details column has been removed, which sounds like a loss, but it isn't. It was cramming everything into a table cell. Now it lives in the panel where there's room for it. Now let's see these updates in the org. Let's open a flow. As you can see, I can click on compare version. I can select the version, click compare. We had a column here before, which is now missing. That might seem like missing, but it's not missing. It has been moved. These labels are now clickable. If I click on this, a pane will open and I will be able to see everything that has been changed in this particular element. I can change the width of this panel so that I can see more clearly now. If I go to the older one, let's see, try a flow which has versions here. Yep, we have an older version here. If I go click here, compare version is at the bottom. If I click this and compare it, so as you can see, there was a change detail here, which we can click view detail instead of the element that we have, which is clickable now. So this column has gone now. So now we only see label, API name, and change type. Label, API name, and change type. Now, if I click on view details, I can see the panel here. We were not able to move panel or change the width, but now if I want, I can change the width here. That is the update. Let's get back to the PPT. The next feature is flow version edit history. Someone changed the flow, it's now behaving differently, and all you have got is a last modified by and a date, which tells you who touched it and absolutely nothing about what they touched. Winter 27 gives you edit history on a flow version. There's a new button that opens a panel with a timeline of every save made to that version. And it's not just timestamps. You can click into an individual element change and see exactly what moved. Then you can restore a historic version straight out of that panel. If you're already doing proper source control, you could get some of this from a metadata difference, but that's a different tool, a different window, and a skill not everyone on the team has. This is inside the flow builder where the person who broke it is already standing. Now let's see this directly in the org. This is a flow which has been modified multiple times. Now if I click on this button, edit history, I will be able to see all the history, all the changes that I have done. And if I click on details, I will be able to see which element I touched. If I click on this, it will open, and similar to compare version, I can see the whole detail about that element change. We are seeing this in read-only mode, and there's a drop down on every change which will allow you to restore that element or save as a new version of that particular moment or save as a new flow, which is pretty helpful when you don't want to change what the other person had changed already and you just want to create a new version. The next feature is enforce user permissions however it runs. Right. Last feature, and this one is different from everything else in this video. Everything so far has been about how the flow builder looks and how it feels. This one is about what your flow can actually do. Here is the situation it fixes. You got a flow and you've set it to run in user context. You did that deliberately because you wanted to respect the running user's permissions. But if that flow gets called by something else, another flow, some Apex, any other automation, and that caller is running in system context, then your flow inherits the caller's elevated permissions and it runs in system context too. Read that again. Flow you configured for user context could be running in system context, depending entirely on what invoked it. Winter 27 adds a new run context option. It's called user context enforce user permissions. And a flow set to that always runs with the running user's access level, no matter what calls it. It's available for screen flow and auto launch flow. And one important detail, it only applies to flows running on API version 68 or later. So an old flow won't get this behavior just because your org was updated. Use it anywhere your flow touches something sensitive and has to respect the running user permission, which, if you think about it, is most of the places you're already choosing user context. Now let's see how you can change this and where to activate this. Let's go back to the org. Okay, let's open this flow. Now let's click on properties and click here. As you can see, we have 4 options here now. User context, enforce user permissions, user or system context, depend on how the flow is launched, system context, and system context without sharing. Before this update, we only had 3 options. So if I go to old version of the flow and click properties and show advanced, so you can see I only have 3 options here. User or system context, that depends how this flow will be called. So if you want it to run in a user context, but the caller is running in the system context, it will automatically run in system context. But in the upgraded version for Winter 27, you can enforce the user's permissions irrespective where it's called from. Okay, let's get back to PPT. So let me answer the obvious question about this whole release. Is this just a new code of paint? Some of it, yes. Sidebar, the canvas, the preference panel, the keyboard shortcuts, the decision navigation, they make the tool the nicer to use. They don't change what you can build, and that is fine. Not everything has to be a capability. The middle group is different. And elements in metadata, the unused resource filter, version comparison, edit history, every one of these is aimed at the person who opens your flow after you have left the project. Salesforce is treating flow as something teams maintain and hand over rather than something one person builds once and forgets. If you've ever inherited a 5-year-old org You will know why that matters. And then there is last one, which sits on its own for a reason. The user context changes isn't a convenience, closes a gap where a flow you thought was permission safe, quietly it wasn't, because it was based on whatever the caller was. So if it was being called from system context, it will run in system context, even if you selected user or system context. So my actual recommendation from this whole video, go and look at which of your flow are set to user context and which of those get called by something else. 11 changes, 4 groups, collapsible sidebar in setup, more screen space, and it follows you into object manager. The new canvas, Cosmos theme, tighter cards, more flow on the screen, auto-generated element labels, they write themselves as you configure and keep your edits. Preference panel, hide API names, collapse descriptions, get your canvas back. Keyboard shortcut, arrow keys across the canvas, cut, copy and paste. Easier decision navigation, click a path to highlight its condition, resize the panel, rename inline. Add elements saved to metadata, your layout persists and XML finally tells the truth. The unused resource filter, one-click audit of everything, nothing points at. Better version comparison, clickable element names, and a resizable detail panel. Edit history, timeline of every save with a way back to any of them. And enforcing user permissions, the one that actually changes what your org does. Well, that was part one, and there's still a lot coming. The two new split elements, the time screen component, reactive conditional visibility, the color picker in the style tab, screen flow, and mask list view actions, which is the one people have been asking for years. The new save time validations, flow tags, and test mode, which is in beta and probably deserves a video on its own. If your sandbox needs to be on the preview instance, check the link on the dates slide and go look up your own release weekend on Salesforce Trust. Like the video if it helped, subscribe if you are not already, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.